Good afternoon. We're hopeful that the truce can be extended, but as I said in the council, this is all in the hands of Hamas. The Israelis have said if they continue to release 10 hostages a day, they will extend by a day. So it truly is, in their hands, but I do think there is a potential for that, and we're actively working to extend the deal. We're continuing to work to get American hostages and all hostages released from the clutches of Hamas and the other groups. 2 Americans have already been released, and we're hoping to get all of the hostages, all of the Americans out. We will not rest until all hostages are free. And if Hamas chooses to continue to release hostages, then Israel is prepared to continue the pause in the fighting. We need to start looking ahead to the future after this conflict, to a future where Israelis and Palestinians live side by side in peace, with equal measure of freedom and dignity and prosperity. This must be our charge because it is the only way forward and the only way to break the cycle, the terrible cycle of violence. Thank you very much.
There are also numerous accounts of sexual violence during attacks that must be vigorously investigated and prosecuted. Gender-based violence must be condemned anytime, anywhere. "80% of Gaza's people have now been forced from their homes. This growing population is being pushed towards an ever smaller area of southern Gaza, and of course, nowhere is safe in Gaza.
1,000 Israelis remain displaced from communities in the north, and some 50,000 Lebanese are displaced from southern areas near the Blue Line. On the Golan, firing from Syria towards the Israeli-occupied Golan and strikes by Israelis against targets in Syria took place. From further afield, missiles and drones were also reportedly launched from Yemen towards Israel. Most were intercepted. However, drone strikes claimed by the Houthis hit the...
The nature and scale of death and destruction are characteristic of the use of wide-area explosive weapons in populated areas, with a significant impact on civilians. I want to stress the inviolability of United Nations facilities, which today are sheltering more than 1 million civilians seeking protection under the UN flag.
光临安理会的会议厅，您们今天的出席。
Civilians, including United Nations personnel, must be protected. Civilian objects, including hospitals, must be protected. UN facilities must not be hit.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, Excellencies.
But the level of aid to Palestinians in Gaza remains completely inadequate to meet the huge needs of more than 2 million people. And although the total volume of fuel allowed into Gaza has also increased, it remains utterly insufficient to sustain basic operations.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Safe and unimpeded humanitarian access to all those in need is critical.
Turning to Israel's north, while tension along the Blue Line have...
All hostages must be released immediately and unconditionally. It is important to recognize that the Rafah border crossing does not have enough capacity, especially taking into account the slow pace of security procedures. That is why we have been urging the opening of other crossings, including Kerem Shalom, and the streamlining of inspection mechanisms to allow for the necessary increase of life-saving aid. The people of Gaza are in the midst of an epic humanitarian catastrophe before the eyes of the world. We must not look away. Intense negotiations are taking place to prolong the truce, which we strongly welcome, but we believe we need a true humanitarian ceasefire.
斯兰德先生